Resolution 287, the gentleman from Virginia, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia.
I thank the chair. Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I rise to offer an amendment with my colleagues in the National Capital Region that would restore full funding of the federal commitment for vital rider safety improvements to America's subway, the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, or Metro. Let me remind my colleagues, this is not like the traditional transit or capital funding under the Department of Transportation. The Passenger Rail Investment Improvement Act of 2008 specifically authorized a $150 million annual federal commitment for 10 years, and Congress has worked in bipartisan fashion in the past 6 years to fulfill that. It was a Republican initiative, initiated and authored by my predecessor, Republican member Tom Davis of Virginia. As required by law, the federal funding is matched dollar for dollar, with $150 million coming from Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. I appreciate the efforts of my fellow Virginian, Mr. Ridgell, and the subcommittee chairman, my friend, Mr. Diaz-Balart, to try to work with us to restore some of the funding at full committee markup, but reducing any of this funding would renege on the federal commitment and jeopardize the successful local-state-federal partnership we've worked so hard to create. It would also open the door for our partners to pull back on their commitments commensurately, which would only exacerbate Metro's challenge in upgrading its aging infrastructure. This partnership in funding critical safety improvements throughout the system is identified by Metro itself, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the Federal Transit Administration following the tragic 2009 Red Line accident and the recent tragedy in the Yellow Line this past January. The most visible improvement purchase of 7,000 series new rail cars with advanced cash-resilient technology and extra capacity to replace the oldest and original cars in the fleet. Congress and the federal government have a responsibility in the operation and safety of Metro. Half of all Metro stations are located on federal property, and approximately 40% of rush hour riders on Metro are in fact federal employees, including many members of Congress and their staffs. It's critical we maintain this bipartisan commitment to match local and state funding so that Metro can continue making these safety upgrades. I want to thank Mr. Hoyer, Ms. Norton, Mr. Van Hollen, Ms. Edwards, Mr. Sarbanes, Mr. Delaney, Mr. Byer, and my friend Mrs. Comstock for working with us on this regional priority. And I would now yield the balance of my time to the distinguished delegate from Washington, D.C., Ms. Norton.
The gentleman for